I'm Jamie Weaver, and I farm with a partnership with my father, Ray Weaver, in Coffee and Franklin counties. We live right on the county line. I call both counties home. The county line splits some of our fields, and so both counties are truly home to me. We row crop about 650 acres, 650, 660. We have about 100 beef cows, mama cows. We also have started a sheep flock, started up my kids' 4-H project. We're up to about 70 ewes that we lambed out this spring. We also will finish out about 150 to 200 pigs a year. We have a retail meat business. We've always been in the pig business my whole life. We've been in contract. We were an independent grower. The last 14, 15 years, we've got into the retail meat business. So we sell beef, pork, and lamb through farmers markets. People come to the farm. I have a few people that wholesale, but it's became a keeps us busy the last several years on the retail meat business. But our row crop acres are 100% cover crop. Well, I take that back. Last year we were a few acres short of 100% cover crop. Last year was wet. Some beans weren't planted until July. Of course, it's December before they came out of the field, and so there was no need of putting a cover crop in. But there was a cover crop already there. Because the volunteer stuff from the previous cover crop, and so there's no point of planting a cover crop in second week of December. But we started cover crops probably mid 2000s. But when we started cover crops, I didn't know I was actually starting cover crops. We started, and we grow several acres of sweet corn. At that time, especially in the mid 2000s, we were growing about 25, 30 acres of sweet corn. We've backed that down to about 10 to 15 now. But started out looking for something. After the sweet corn came off, I would plant something for the cows to graze. So started with some turnips and some radishes and some wheat and doing a few things. And then at that same point, we started growing some real early maturing beans, around some 2.8 maturity beans that we'd combine them before Labor Day. Last week of August, Labor Day, we would combine those beans, and the whole idea was get the beans off or the sweet corn off, and then I would sow something for the cows to graze, sort of that late summer slump to get them off the pastures and help. And we did that for several years. And then, of course, about 2010, 2011, there started being a big push for cover crops. And so we're like, hey, we're already sort of doing it. And so then, since then, we've taken off and, started out doing probably a third of our crop, and then by probably 2014 or 15, we said this works, and so we're doing our complete crop and cover crops. Of course, we started out just a few species. Like I said, now my general mix is a 13 species mix. I mix several grass species. Of course, my clovers, my peas, vetch. My personal opinion is I like a little of different things, because one year one species will do great, and then the next year it won't do nothing. And so I haven't figured out, like the peas are a good example. There's some years that peas will do great, and then I put the same amount of peas next year, and did I even put them in the mix? And so that's where I like the multi-species, because I never know what is going to actually work and go good that year. We plant everything green. I like to plant green. We've got all our equipment set up, and to me, I have less issues, I think, planting green. So how we generally do it, plant green. Hopefully, if I plant today, hopefully the next morning or in the next couple of days, we will burn the crop down. Of course, we use all chemical burn down. I burn down with paraquat or Moxone. I want that fast kill, and so that's what I do. Of course, all our crops, I do grow some conventional corn that we feed our livestock, and all our sweet corn is conventional sweet corn varieties because everything else is Roundup Ready corn. So I like the Gramoxone go in there. Then of course 3-4 weeks later, I can go in there and clean anything I miss with the Roundup. And again, that's like the ryegrass. I know other farmers, like, they have issues with ryegrass in their fields, and especially herbicide resistant ryegrass. And I haven't had any issues with it, but I think by planting a variety of ryegrass, it crosses with the native ryegrass, and I haven't had any herbicide resistant ryegrass. But again, the ryegrass can be a challenge sometimes. Gramoxone won't hardly knock it out sometimes, but again, I'll come back with the Roundup and it cleans it up. So like this year already, I planted in cover crops that are waist tall to some that are boot tall. It all depends on when they got planted, on what the ground. And so there's a lot of variations we do. We do try to graze. I try to graze as many acres of the cover crop that I can. Every place that I have cows next to, we will put up, most of it is temporary fence, one strand of hot wire, and well, like right now, I've got cows running on about, well, it'd be 120 acres of cover crop. So it works out good, gets the cows off the pasture, hopefully get my grass up and going, and then, then of course the cover crop fields recycling some nutrients, and that works great. I wish I could graze cows everywhere, but it's having the cows next to a row crop, water sources, all the issues that come with having the cows there. So that's one issue that I've got a farm that I bought several years ago that I would love to have cows up there on it, but I don't have. It's all in row crop, and you can't justify fencing or moving cows for a month of grazing. And so that's where. But every place that I do have cows next to row crop, it works out great, and I love doing that. Again, the cover crops, my personal opinion. Getting back to our herbicide program, 90% of my herbicide program will be burned down with Gramoxone, and I'll either come back with Roundup or Liberty. I use very little pre-emerge herbicides. My opinion is I'm spending the money for a cover crop. I'm hoping it gets big enough. That's my weed control. That's my goal. So why spend money on herbicides when I'm hopefully building a natural barrier? Of course, if I plant a field, if we get some cover crops not planted till late, and I get in there and they're only boot tall when I'm planting them, I may add in a pre-merge herbicide on those fields, just like we were talking. The farm that last year was wet, didn't get planted right. Well, this year dry, I got in there early. The cover crop wasn't very big, and so I put down a pre-emerge with the Gramoxone just because I know there's not enough mass there to have that barrier of weed control. But I've found, in my opinion, especially letting this green and get some size to it, that it'll keep weeds out. And so I haven't, since we've been doing cover crops now for 15, 16 years, pretty heavy. My personal opinion, I really haven't, I guess I've reduced my fertilizer inputs a little bit. We variable every year's in corn. It's all grid sample. We variable rate on the corn. When it's in beans, we just do a blanket across the bean ground. I've seen a little reduction in fertilizer, not enough to say it. Trying to with the yields that we want to have. Talking about fertilizer, I do believe, especially on all the corn, we run starter fertilizer in the row. That's one thing is planting green. In my opinion, that corn first comes up, having that starter fertilizer in a row, because whether it's the ryegrass or the rye, it sucked a lot of that nitrogen, and it's and of course when you plant in cover crops that are waist tall, there's a lot of stress in that little plant, and so I believe in the starter fertilizer to help it just get it up and going, especially through the biomass. Try to, at the end of the day, for the cost of the liquid fertilizer, I can't tell you if they make me money, but I do know, you can visually know that it helps it start out early. Of course, the beans, we drilled the beans, and no, they just, beans got to tough it, and we've had, no issues with, coming up. So far as reduction in chemicals will be my big savings. Far as nutrients, fertilize may have a little bit. And then, I tell people, I haven't seen my opinion is, I haven't seen a change in yield either way. Since we've been doing this, we don't have the swings in yield. Where I've got some, fellow neighbors and farmers that still do a lot of conventional and work ground. Yes, in perfect years, they will make great yields. But then they have a little dry year, then they're making 60 bushel corn, where I think with the cover crops and what we're doing, our yields are more constant. We don't have, you don't hit the home runs, but then you don't strike out on a year that it's dry. I think the cover crop sort of keeps it, more of a balance. So that's what I tell people. If you're looking just for yield out of it, I don't see, the extra yield gain. But I will say that you take out that bottom and and you'll be more consistent. Again, we believe in the cover crops. Because my dad's been on soil conservation board for years. He's done stuff on the national level, and like I tell anybody, I've got 2 sons that hopefully one of these days they want to farm. Well, I've got a 16-year-old that I pretty well know he's going to be back on farming, and trying to make things better than what it was, the ground better for them than when I started, early 2000s, better than my father started back in the 70s. Of course, my dad bought his first no-till planter in 1975 before I was born. Started doing no-till, and since the early 90s, we've been almost 100% no-till, and really since about 2000, we've been 100% no-till. And I can see the improvement. Things are better. Our ground is in better shape now in 2026 than it was in 1990, because we've taken out working the ground and then adding the cover crops, that little extra boost. So